Hey, welcome everybody. Come on in. Listen, I'm starting our live early because I have to be at my client's office this afternoon. So we're gonna get through this a little earlier. So I'm starting for those of you who are anticipating that I go live at 1:30 p.m. Central Time. I'm now going live at 1:15 right now here in Austin. Listen, I hope everybody's fantastic. I can't wait to talk to you about for the love of your employees. I'm so excited about this conversation. First of all, hello, how are you all? Listen, it is Valentine's Day. It is also the beginning of Lent. It is Ash Wednesday. Yesterday was Fat Tuesday. We are having a busy day. It's an exciting day. We've been busy, busy, busy this morning, and we're still going to keep at it through the rest of our afternoon. But I wanted to come on here because we took a 2 week little break to handle some life circumstances. Yep, life circumstances. And so when that happens, um, my world gets reprioritized. And so 2 week little break that we had from coming on live with you all. But we're here today. And I'm so excited. For those of you who don't know me, I am Dr. Denise Simpson. I am a leadership trainer, a public academic, which means I don't work for an institution. I get to conduct research on my own terms with my clients and their organizations. And I get to use that data to support their leadership development and training. We also have an institute. It's called Masters of Leadership. We're so excited about what we're doing in there. We are helping leaders be better. That's it. We want them to be more impactful. We want them to um, cultivate high performing teams, teams who are highly engaged and committed. We do a lot for our clients because we obsess over our clients. So that is who I am and what we get to do here in my research company. But let's get to the conversation that I'm so excited to have with you about your employees, the people who report to you. Now, some of you are managers who do not have direct reports, while others are directors, supervisors, leaders who are leading humans. So, wherever you are on that spectrum in the pipeline of leadership, this conversation is for you. We are going to talk about employee disengagement and uncommitted employees that we have working for us. They're disengaged, they're uncommitted. So here's what's interesting about this conversation is that a Gallup poll came out late January of this year, and it came out with a very startling statistic. And it is that employee engagement has reached its lowest level since 2015. And this was a survey of over 67,000 full-time and part-time employees. And so here's what's really great about this conversation that we're having. I have spent all of my research focus on the dyad of leader and follower, the relationship between you, the leader, and your follower. That's what we're obsessed about, right? This dyad. And so here's why it's so interesting to me is because my dissertation was exactly on this, on disengaged and uncommitted employees. So at that time, I'll give you some context. I think it's important for you to understand this. At that time, I was in higher education. I was pursuing tenured positions. I was pursuing academic research. I was very excited about my life in higher education. And the more I saw the politics in my office, among my peers, among my chair, I started to get disillusioned. I started to find evidence for why I didn't belong there. I was also involved in some very interesting conversations because I had become disengaged and uncommitted. So the more stuff that I was believing from my own belief systems and then, conversations with my peers. Um, there was so much that I was creating in my mind about my engagement and commitment to that institution. Many of you can relate. Many of you are working in organizations right now where you are just waiting for an opportunity to open up somewhere else. You are buying time. You have quiet quit on your team. I'm talking to you, leader, because it's important that we get truthful, right? We practice some self-honesty here with each other so that we can recognize the symptoms and the signs of disengaged employees. So when we come to terms with, hey, I've been there and actually I'm there right now. And so I know what it feels like to not want to come to this organization every day, to not want to participate, to not want to be engaged, to not want to be productive. I'd rather be scrolling on Instagram or on TikTok, while my team is, hustling to meet these performance measurements. Like I want for us to take a moment. This is so important for us as leaders to say, okay, I'm there and I'm out of alignment with the values of this organization. I no longer believe in the mission or the vision of this institution. And Denise is right. I have quiet quit on my people and this institution. And so what do I do? Okay. So I've got some ideas for how we leaders can cope with that ourselves. The focus of our conversation today is identifying signs and symptoms of your employees because you have experienced or are experiencing disengagement or uncommitment to your role as a leader, right? I know. It's like, wait, what? No, we do work on ourselves first so that we can help our employees. That's how this is leadership. Leadership, they're life skills. We work on ourselves first so that we can then help another, so that we can then help our employees. Because a disengaged, uncommitted employee costs you a whole lot of money, not only in time, in energy, in productivity, in morale, and so many other ways that disengaged, uncommitted employees are impacting your department, your organization. So, we must identify those signs, those symptoms, because there's a root cause. What's the problem? And that's when we do the reflective work, leader. That's where we have to ask ourselves, okay, what do I have control of in this circumstance as a leader in this department? And what don't I have control over? Oh, my employees think about me and my leadership. I have no control of their beliefs about, their status in this department. I can't control my employees' thoughts, beliefs, actions, or behaviors. My role as a leader is to influence our people. That's what we do. But now listen, if you are disengaged and uncommitted yourself, well, then we got to do some work ourselves, right? So I titled this conversation, For the Love of Your Employees. Here are some things that we can do to help them. Now, some are far along the path. Some folks are applying. They've gone on interviews. They're done. They're done. And then there's folks that are on the verge who are waiting for a sign from you, who are waiting for a conversation from their leader that truly matters. A conversation that looks like, hey, listen, I value you. I see you working so hard here. And I just want to check in with you. How are you feeling about your time in our department? How are you feeling about your contribution to this great work that we're doing together? Right? That employee who's on the verge, on the cusp of saying, peace, I'm out of here. They're just waiting for a sign. And so we want to save, quote unquote, we're not saving anybody, but we want to help those who have one foot still in the door while they walk themselves out, right? Before they walk themselves out, we want to identify those disengaged, uncommitted employees because it is costing you so much. It is more expensive to hire to recruit a new hire. Obviously, there's so much there's so the calculations behind the scenes that our HR departments have to do, right? They have to do an analysis, a cost analysis of what it's costing the department to keep this person employed versus having to go and hire someone new, the time, the effort, the energy of all of those assets, the human assets that have to interview, the hiring managers, that entire process is expensive. And so it's costing you in so many ways that you're probably not really realizing. And if you're a leader who doesn't know what it's costing your department, your budget, every time you have turnover, every time you have to hire someone new, go and speak to your HR leaders and ask them on average, how much is it? How much does it cost? So we're looking at signs and symptoms of these disengaged, uncommitted employees. And so back to the context that I shared with you early, in that my dissertation was specifically on the engaged and committed employee in higher education. I spent, my last year doing research on a very specific population in higher education. I conducted a survey of over 500 professionals. They were tenured professors, adjunct professors, they were professional staff, they were classified staff. I mean, I had people from, the president position all the way to, the last person who was hired in the institution. I surveyed them and I asked them how engaged and committed they were to the institution, to that university, or wherever they were employed. How committed, how engaged were they and more importantly, working under that very specific leader? Did that leader influence their engagement and commitment to the organization or the institution? And of course, common sense says, well, yes, of course. I mean, I directly report to this leader. So, yeah, their actions, their behaviors, their beliefs are going to impact how I show up and whether I'm committed or disengaged, right? It's common sense. Like, I spend the most time with my leader. I don't spend a lot of time with the vice president of, this region. I don't spend any time with this senior level leader. This is my leader. And yes, how they lead impacts whether I am engaged or committed. Engaged and committed, to different things. And so of course my research found that, yeah, people leave their organization because of their perception of how bad or how good their leader's leadership style is. And so when I chose this topic to research for my dissertation many moons ago, I was so excited because I was disengaged, because I was not committed, because I thought, that's it, I don't belong here. Look at all the evidence. They don't like people that look like me, sound like me. They don't want me in this position that I'm applying for. Why stay here? And when I turned those thoughts into a belief system, I checked out. That's when I came to the decision, I better leave. I better go. Well, here's what was interesting. You take your happiness and your misery everywhere you go. So if you are miserable where you are right now under this leader, check yourself first. Get the coaching that you need first before you make the decision to apply somewhere else and leave that organization. Get the coaching that you need, because that's exactly what I needed. I needed someone to help me understand what was true and what was not, right? Because my brain was looking for all the reasons. See, look, he just told me that I don't belong here. That Yep, that's everybody's view here. Oh, look, they just hired that guy instead of me. Oh, we see, there's evidence. So there I was all alone, trying to make sense of it all, believing my thoughts, believing that nobody wanted me there. Instead of asking someone, "Hey, can you please help me unravel what's happening to me in this organization? I really, really enjoy being here. But lately, because of this circumstance, I am now all over the place and I don't understand why I'm feeling so insecure, why I'm feeling overwhelmed, how do I process this information?" If I had only had someone that I could hire or talk to about what I was experiencing, who knows? I'd be the president of that university by now, for real. For real. Who knows? Who knows how far I would have gone in that institution? But I didn't have someone. I trusted my thoughts. I trusted my beliefs. And then I never once did I challenge them and I left. And then guess what? I went to another university and the same thing happened. I was disengaged, uncommitted from the get go. And then I realized, yeah, I'm taking my misery with me into this other university. And so this is what's happening to our employees. They're disengaged, they're uncommitted, they're unhappy where they're at now, and they think that if they leave this organization for another, that it's greener pastures. Look at the grass is greener on the other side, but then they step into the other side, right? They leave your organization, they put in their 2 weeks notice, and then they jump over to this other organization, and then they realize, "Oh, wait, I'm the problem. Oh, wait, the problem is me, Taylor Swift. I am the problem." So you mean I take my happiness and my misery everywhere I go? So maybe I should have unraveled all these thoughts and these beliefs in that organization before I said peace? Like what? So this is why this topic is so important to me because I was there. I know the signs of disengaged, uncommitted employees. Productivity plummets. The morale, my goodness, one bad apple in the bunch affects the others. It's like a virus going around, right? It's the attitudes that we bring into the organization when we're not engaged or committed to the mission or to the vision. So where did we go wrong as leaders? What are we responsible for in the organization, right? If they're under our stewardship, right? They're under our leadership and influence. How much responsibility does a leader have, right? What do we as leaders have to look for? How can we prevent this? How can we mitigate this? What can we do? This is why this is so important. It's one of my most passionate topics to have with leaders is about their employees who are disengaged, who are uncommitted, and ways for us to help these folks. So as I mentioned, the decrease in productivity and performance, a decrease in morale, right? The attitudes of this person may impact the attitudes of the rest of the team, right? Profitability may be a problem if you're in sales. Customer service may be impacted because of a disengaged employee. It's important that we look for these signs ahead of time. It's like the radar is always on as a leader. We're always because and here's why. We know the patterns of behaviors of our employees. And if you don't, then you're doing leadership wrong. That's one of the most important skills is pattern recognition. Listen, if you don't know your own patterns and your own habits, then you probably don't and will not be able to recognize your employees' patterns of behaviors. Like I get to know my employees, not intimately. I'm not going into their homes. I'm not having dinner with their families, but I'm watching and I'm observing. And I know that when, Christy is she is challenged with a new idea, with a new project, I know how she's going to react because she's done this before. So I'm on to their cues. I'm listening and I am watching their nonverbals. I'm looking at their responses. I'm synthesizing their results and their responses. And that's how in my brain I then catalog it. And I know, well, when Christy does this, this is going to happen. When she's faced with adversity, she backs up against the wall. And so I'm going to have to coach her through that because I've already recognized that in her patterns. And so when we leaders know those cues, know those signs, know those signals, we're able to coach our employees through whatever challenge or crisis or circumstance, right? So we're on to them. And this is why it's important that we start tuning in to our employees' behaviors. So, by the way, comment any questions, any insights that you're taking away from this. Even if you're watching the replay, would love to hear from you. Welcome for those of you who are just joining. Hi, I know I'm on fire today. But let me get through just a few more points, and then I will end our live today. Here's what I want for you to consider: 3 things to do right away. I want for you to enhance your communication and transparency with your employees starting today. And if you're saying, "Well, I'm already very transparent with my people. I don't know how much more I can do." Pay attention to the beliefs that you have in your mind, right? Challenge those beliefs. Am I really transparent? Am I a good communicator with my team? How so? And find the evidence for it and then jot those down. Right? And if you can't find evidence for it, then challenge that belief that you have. So when we enhance communication and transparency, that then creates a culture of and fosters a culture of openness, maybe even some vulnerability. Maybe the transparency key is so important, right? It's like, hey, look, listen, I don't know the answer to this, Tim, but I'm going to find the answer for us. So give me some time. Let's keep working on this project. But listen, I don't know, but I think I know someone else in the organization that knows this. So let me get back to you. That's leadership. Telling your employee, I don't have all the answers, but here I am transparent with you that I don't know everything, but I am resourceful. And so they're watching your behavior. And so they're like, okay, well, she doesn't know everything, but wow, she's really resourceful in finding ways to solve for these problems and help us as a team. Fantastic. So that's what I mean by enhancing communication and transparency, encouraging them to have open dialogues, right? Having those team meetings where you're open to what everybody on the team has to say. You also want to provide regular feedback and updates, right? That way, one day when they did something wrong and it's been a pattern that you've noticed and you haven't acknowledged, then that's going to surprise them. And you don't want to do that. You want to have regular feedback. Right. And I know, what is it? 80% of leaders don't like to have difficult conversations, and usually giving feedback involves having difficult conversations. I know the research, and so I want to encourage you to start creating this environment of regular feedback and updates, because then it becomes easier for you too as a leader to have those difficult conversations. But what you don't want to do is surprise an employee, like, "Hey, listen, this 6 months already, you've been doing this wrong." And it's like, "Well, nobody told me." Why didn't you tell me, leader?" "Well, I was waiting for an opportunity." Well, you have opportunities every day with your employees. So make sure that this is priority, enhancing communication and transparency. And I just shared with you, you're going to encourage open dialogue with your folks. You're going to provide regular updates and feedback among your team. Second thing I want for you to do: invest in employee growth and development. Listen, you've got a lot of high potential folks working for you who are uncommitted and disengaged. These are people that are probably looking for another opportunity. You know how when there's a buyer's market in the housing market, meaning that they've got the upper hand. Guess what? Applicants have the upper hand right now. Applicants have the upper hand because of so much turnover that's happening right now. Why? Because they're disengaged and uncommitted. So invest in those folks so that they can also see, my leader believes in me. My leader believes in my potential, right? This is where your coaching comes in too as a leader. You create these, very personalized developmental plans, right? What's best for Susie is not going to be best for Timmy over here. So you're going to want to tune into those patterns of behavior. You're going to want to tune into their strengths and opportunities for growth. And then you, as the leader, check your budget and be certain to make sure that you allocate funds for professional development. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is I want for you to cultivate a positive organizational culture. When people get disengaged and uncommitted, they are gossiping, they are talking badly about their leaders to other department employees. They are spreading rumors outside of the organization. Trust me, I was that person in the university. I was so disengaged and uncommitted and mad. Yeah. And so what did I do? I told everybody that would listen to me that these people disliked me and hated me. Yes. I mean, what do they say when there's a bad review spreads to 10 people, but when you had a good experience somewhere, you only tell like 2 max. But when you had bad customer service, there's 10 plus people that will know about your concerns. And so that's what's happening. And so you want to already create that from the top of your leadership. It's like, let's create this positive organizational culture. Remind them, do activities where they're reminded of the values of the organization, and then check in with them and whether they're in alignment with these values, right? I mean, it's interesting because we as leaders, all we have is our influence. We can't control them. We can't manipulate them, coerce them. We cannot do these things. And so we have to count on our influence. We have to be okay with what we're doing, with the actions we're taking. Because when employees leave and they give you a bad review or they do a bad exit interview, it is disheartening. You take it personally. You make it mean that you're a bad leader. And more often than not, you're not a bad leader. You just didn't demonstrate your influence as best as you could to help a disengaged, uncommitted employee. And so this is where I am going to invite you into my world of leadership. Listen, I'm not your typical executive coach, leadership trainer. I'm someone who questions everything. I'm definitely a skeptic, and so I do some extra research on top of my research because I want to make sure that you have the tools and the resources to do your job, to be impactful, to be powerful, to demonstrate your authority with compassion, with courage, with confidence. And so I invite you into my world. This is how you're going to get into my world. DrDenisesimpson.com/leadership. You're going to want to join my email list. That way we stay in touch with one another and that you know when we go live again. Okay, so just a word of caution, leader. You don't control them. We cannot manipulate them. We cannot coerce them. This is where we need to do the deeper reflective, introspective work as leaders. And so there are things that we will take responsibility for, and there are things that we cannot and that we should not. And so this is where you're going to need some help, and I'm going to be here to help you. So DrDenisesimpson.com/leadership. Join my email list so that we can stay connected. All righty. Leaders, have a wonderful rest of your day. Happy Valentine's Day. Hope you're spending it with those that you love. All right. Take care. I'll see you soon.